Hey everybody, welcome to the Kayak Fishing Show live. I'm Jim Sammons. Jameson Redding is going to be joining me here in a little bit. He is having some technical difficulties because apparently his wife took his computer. Anyway, the Kayak Fishing Show live, as always, brought to you by Death Wish Coffee, because I need it to wake up in the morning. And, as always, Ballast Point Brewing Company. I've actually got a new Aloha Sculpin here, so I'm actually going to crack this open right now because I haven't tried this beer. It's their new one. That's really good. Really good, just like all Ballast Point's beers. So for those of you who don't know Jameson, you may have seen him on my show. He's been on a few times. I'm going to hide him right now so we don't have to see the side of his head. Jameson has been on our show a few times. He's actually the one, as you can tell by that long-ass beard, who beat me in the hair challenge, my hair versus his beard. He kept his beard. I had to shave my head. But we had a great time. We fished together many times. Jameson works with Jackson Kayak, does a lot of their video stuff. He's been with them a long time. He's also did all the a lot of the prototyping and video work on the new Blue Sky project. So he's gonna have a lot of insight on that new boat. So I want to talk to him about that. If anybody has any questions regarding shooting video, of course we can talk about that. Jameson's also a heck of a fisherman. Obviously, the fact that he could beat me, he must be good. And he's got some special places that he loves to fish, and I know he's got some lures he wanted to show us. So we just got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Just need you guys to jump in with some questions, but I will bring Jameson back on the screen. There he is, or at least half of his face. How are you, Jameson?
I'm good, man. Just trying to. I got the computer, so I'm gonna go on the phone and get the computer going at the same time here, and then that way I can switch over once I get it set up. Thanks for having me on, for sure, man. Like you said, we fish together a lot and always have a good time, so it's always fun.
So, like I said, I kind of gave a brief introduction there, but you wear a lot of hats. What are some of the things you're up to?
Well, Brooks, Betty, and I launched JK Media House with James and now Will Richardson, who films your show, a few years back to basically do a lot of the video content for Jackson Kayak, the fishing side of things. And now Blue Sky and Orion. Hey, Wyatt. That's my son. So we started doing that, and that means the idea was to take the camera to the team members and to the different locations and different places kind of around, it started off, around the country, but then we ended up going to Sweden with you. We've got a trip to the Bahamas planned in May. I think you'll be on that one as well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so that should be fun. So, yeah, it just turned into a really cool thing. We get to go see a lot of people and film the new boats, test the new boats.
Are you in a rocking chair or something?
I am rocking. I will stop rocking. I didn't even realize I was doing it, to be honest.
But what a great fishery Louisiana is. I know it's become a pretty special place to you. You go there quite a bit.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of a second home. My thing, obviously, is more the inshore stuff, because it's not every day I can get on a Freeman and run 4 300s out to the oil rig, so it's like I don't get to go down there and play like that. But
you're making me seasick, dude. Stop rocking.
All right, I got to stop. So yeah, I don't always get to do that, but going down there and being able to go inshore and sight fish reds is kind of like my thing. I love it. There's not a whole lot better than that, in my opinion. So yeah, it doesn't get any better, really.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of sight fishing for redfish. I did a trip with Dean Thomas. It was actually the first time where I actually was Oh, we got to add you up. You switched, huh? There you go. Got you back up. But yeah, a trip with Dean Thomas was the first time I could actually say that I was truly sight casting, you know, to tailing redfish. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's what you live for, or what I live for, you know, like catching reds is one thing and blind casting them is one thing. But when you get a chance to actually go after reds that are, like you said, telling that they're, and I was with you on that trip too when we were with Dean.
Right.
But, you know, having their backs out of the water or having their tails out of the water, and you know they're feeding. And then you put this last trip we went down, you know, it was so visual. You put the bait in front of them, and we'll get into my new favorite kind of bait for those here in a minute. But you put it in front of them, and you see them swim up to it and just look at it for a second. And you're like, oh, is he going to eat? You know, what's he going to do? And you watch them, and then you kind of move it a little bit, and they just move on it again and start telling on it like they're just staring it down. Like, is this a real thing? And then you bump it one more time, and they finally just crush it. And then it's like, it's just, you know, you're in the moment, and it's like hunting or something. I mean, you're stalking the fish, and you're trying to not spook them. And you're trying not to be seen, and you're trying to make a great cast that's not too loud but not too far away, and get it right in front of their nose, and then make sure that they think that it's a real, you know, bait that they would be eating.
So when we did that trip,
I'm going to grab those baits real quick.
Okay. when Jameson did the hair challenge deal, he was throwing these Z-Man crabs, and I mean he had 4 fish on that crab before I had a fish. Then he gave me one, and I started catching fish. They were absolutely amazing. But he says he's got a new bait that has kind of become his favorite, and he promised to show us this new secret weapon for that sight casting and stuff. Franco from Argentina, thanks for joining us, man. I got to figure out how to get down there for those golden dorado. Got to. So show us these. I'll get this comment off there because all of a sudden there's a bunch on here. Let's see these baits, Jameson. I'm actually going to give you the whole screen here, okay, so you can show them a little bit better.
So I saw, talking about me throwing the crab pattern with the Z-Man stuff, and I still throw it. Actually, it's what I got my biggest bull ever on this last time I was down in Louisiana. It's a great bait. But I was a few years back at iCast, I came across these tiny little guys right here. Let's see.
Oh, wow, that's smaller than I was thinking.
All right, so this is a Cranka Crab. It's a company out of Australia, and they made these to fish for the brand that they tournament fish for down there. It's a hard body bait. These are foam. These are foam claws with little treble hooks. Now this one actually was put to use, and I broke a couple of the trebles off. It was still catching fish on it. Now, a couple years after I saw these, a buddy of mine, Justin, who guides in Charleston, he's on the Hobie team there. He's been fishing with them. And also another buddy of mine named Matthew Van down in Pensacola, Florida, has been fishing for redfish with these little dudes that I never thought would hold up to a red. All right, so I went to fish over in Charleston early this year, and he gave me a couple. This is one of the ones he gave me. I lost another one he gave me. But since I first saw them, they've come out with a bigger size. So you've got the original.
Can you hold that closer to the camera a little bit? Oh, okay, that's much better. Yeah.
So you got the original one here, which I believe is a 55 millimeters, and this one is the 65 millimeter. I believe is the sizing that they've got on them. They're not real super light. You can cast them. I haven't done the conversion to figure out exactly how much they weigh, but I think this one's 4 grams and maybe 9, somewhere around in there. Same thing. So I started out throwing this guy in actually a different color, but it's called mud, a little darker than what this one is. More of the brown you see in the legs and claws of this one. And I was just every fish. In fact, the first fish that I caught on it, I just saw one kind of milling around and cast in the general area and started reeling in because I didn't think it was there. Maybe I thought it was a fish and it was a mullet, or thought it was a red and it was a mullet. And this like 34-inch bull just comes out of nowhere and crushes it right by the boat. So I knew it was going to be a good bait. And I just, kept throwing it. And I caught, I don't know how many fish on it, but what really stood out to me and what I think really makes or proves that it's a great bait, if anyone has ever tried to sight cast or fish for sheep's head, and not the ones you have out in California, obviously, but the inshore or the sheep's head that we have in the saltwater that have the black bars on their side and real gnarly looking teeth, because they typically just eat like crabs and barnacles and crustaceans and stuff like that. But they'll tail just like a redfish. You'll see them on the flats, and you'll think it's a redfish tailing half the time because you're all excited and you want it to be a redfish. But they typically do not eat artificial. Like, it is, even with live bait, it's like, okay, I got to have fluorocarbon. I got to have a really sharp hook. I've got to trick these fish. And people will throw fiddler crabs or shrimp for them or whatever. But when they're tailing, I've seen people catch them on fly or little hair jigs, and that's even rare. But every single one that I put this crab in front of, this Cranka crab, ate this thing. Every single one. But anyway, every single fish that, like I said, that I threw this crab at, I caught. Eventually, this size, which is now the medium size, they actually have a bigger one now. It's very similar.
I want to give you the whole screen again because I want to see that really good.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, so that one now, so the other one's just had the hooks in the claws. Yeah. This one has the hook through it.
Right, and this is kind of the latest one. It's quite a bit bigger. I'm going to hold the middle size up so you can get a reference. If you can see that. It's quite a bit bigger than the other one. And it has more of just a single big hook. So if you're worried about those little wires, which I caught tons of fish with them, this dude's a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. And so, again, you can kind of match the hatch, if you will, whatever they're feeding on. What was really cool down there after we saw these things work at night, in the current under the lights, we would see crabs float by that literally were exactly the size of these crabs. So we were just dialing them in. And those sheep's head hitting that proves to me that bait looks as real as it's going to get in the water.
Now, how does that sit on the bottom?
So it's going to sit pretty flat on the bottom. It actually has kind of a weighted, let's see if I can turn this. These hooks are super sharp. But that little colored part, the orange part right there, is actually the weight.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lead, weight, and it sits kind of like that. And then these foam claws are what really gives it its action. They're going to float up off the bottom and kind of dance in the current or whatever. And when you can just kind of drag it. And all the legs are loose, too. They're kind of a rubbery plastic. So it just has a lot of movement in the water. When I broke the middle size one off, I put the small guy on, and thought, well, I'll catch some sheep's head with it or whatever. I threw it at a black drum that was probably pushing 30 pounds, and he annihilated it. And then I thought, how's this going to work? And I landed that black drum, that 30-pound black drum. The picture's on my Instagram and Facebook with this little tiny crab. And so then I wasn't afraid to throw it literally at anything and everything that I saw out there. And it got to the point where I was the only one that had one of those with me, and everyone else wanted to catch these sheep's head because we would see them tailing everywhere. And it's sight casting, just like reds. And I caught 5 or 6 of them, and so I ended up just handing my rod to the other guys with me, just so they could get a chance.
So you were the only one getting bit.
Yeah, on the sheep's head, nothing else was eating that.
Okay, so now the tough part. The tough part.
Oh yeah, so this is where it gets you, and keep in mind it works, so that helps.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it works, it works.
But there's a lot of detail on these little guys. So right now they run around $20 to $24. Well, the nice thing is that when they do jack up the hooks, because after catching a dozen reds and stuff and pulling this out of their crushers, because they put it all the way back in their throat, they hit it so hard, it's time to switch the hooks out. And they sell replacement foam claws with the hooks on them, and so you just take your split ring pliers and you can swap those out and keep fishing it. But you definitely want to make sure your knots are good and that you're fishing some Premier Cigar fluorocarbon or some Blue Label on that and not lose it. Because
yeah, I'd be afraid I definitely wouldn't want to be light tackle fishing, particularly around any kind of oysters or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I got a little put a little too much heat on one of the reds. This is about a 30-incher, and it went under the boat and cut me off on some oysters on one of them. So that was painful. Luckily, I had a buddy that came in, Matt came in, and he's like, "Oh, you lost one? Well, I'll give you another one." So he hooked me up with another one. So I'm sitting with these 3 that I showed you. I've got one more of the bigger ones in a darker, kind of a mud color, brown color. Haven't tried this bigger one yet. The small ones were working, so I haven't put the big one on. But I think this one would be a really good bait to float. Matt actually said he floats it under a popping cork just to keep it suspended in the water column. So, crabs will move in the current like that. They'll just kind of float by, and then the reds will crush them. So he's been doing that, just floating under a popping cork and letting it kind of suspend and drift.
Really?
Through. Yeah. And it's got a lot thicker gauge hook on it. And you can actually disassemble the body on this one and replace any of the parts, including if you want to upsize the weight. I believe they make a heavier weight as well.
Interesting. Well, we're talking about doing another trip together to Louisiana this year. So maybe we can talk to these people and see if they want to help us out with some and promote them. I mean, I'd certainly love to fish with them. But by the way, you were telling me all about this place yesterday. Why don't you? This place is pretty cool in Louisiana.
The last 5-6 times that I've been down there, I don't even remember now how many times I've been to this place, but John and some of the guys from Pack and Paddle, one of our dealers down in Lafayette, Louisiana, kind of put us in touch with Eddie and Lisa, who own Pack or Pointe-a-Shan kayak rentals, and it's right on the tip of Pointe-a-Shan, Louisiana, which is down in the marsh, and it's spelled POINTAUXCHENES, if anybody wants to look it up. Because I was like, all right, I don't even know how to type this in the Google. So, but we went down there the first time, and they had a houseboat set up, and they had some places to camp, and they were working on adding some camp spots, RV-type spots for people to lease, and have a little shop there, a little tackle shop. And since we've been going down there, they've just really done a lot of work. They moved the houseboat. They built docks specific for kayaks to launch on, and it's kind of, I've never seen anything like it. You back your truck up, slide it out onto some PVC down onto this floating dock that's designed specifically to fit the width of most kayaks. Goes right into the water, and then you step on the floating dock and step into your kayak, and it's super stable.
So you're not dealing about stepping in the mud and all that?
No mud. There's no concrete boat launch. It's all designed for a kayaker to be able to get in and out of the water quickly with their gear. You can completely rig your boat up and then slide it right into the water. It's like a roller and a piece of PVC pipe that it can slide on. And it floats. So as the tide goes in and out, you're always the same height off your kayak. You're not trying to get up on a dock that's now 2 feet higher out of the water when you come back in. The neat thing about it, I have literally launched there and paddled less than 100 yards and caught a 27-inch red on topwater and caught a 23-inch trout on topwater. So the fish are right there. You don't have to go very far. If you want to get further away from people and from the pressure, because it's becoming a known place. There's a lot of kayakers that go down there and spend their weekend. But you can get a little bit further away. They also offer a really cool trip, and that's actually where I caught my biggest bull red ever. They have a mothership trip, and he's got a boat there that he can put 4 or 5 kayaks on, depending on if they're Hobie Pro anglers or if they're Cuda 12s, like how many he can fit. But he will run you 8 or 9 miles or however far into the marsh and get you further south, closer to the actual Gulf or bigger water. And that's going to be where those bigger fish come in at, and it gets you away from pressured fish, and you won't even see anybody else until he comes back to get you in the evening. So it's just a really cool operation. They're adding a restaurant down there. They've got something I've never seen anywhere else too, other than the kayak launch. They have these lockers for your kayak. So if you enjoy going there, but that's pretty much the only place you ever go fishing, you can rent one of these lockers, pull your kayak out of the water, slide it into the kayak locker, put your lock on it, and go home. And then that's it. You don't have to deal with where am I going to store my kayak, hauling your kayak. You can just run down there, and you're in the water in 2 minutes without having to even haul your boat.
That sounds awesome. It sounds like awesome for like a long weekend type of trip too.
Great long weekend trip. We literally get out of the water. We leave our kayaks fully rigged. We just rinse the salt off with the hose they got there. And then the next morning, we just drag them back into the water. So there's no like unrigging or moving that much. I mean, and the houseboat is super cool because they've got lights shining on the water. So at night when the current's coming through, all the bait comes through and you can catch trout right there off the back of the boat. Chris Funk was with us on this last trip, and he set up and actually used some broken or crushed crab pieces and caught 2 giant black drum off the back of the boat while we were just hanging out. So, and Lisa always takes care of us down there. She's cooked us gumbo and jambalaya. We've done big crab boils. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk to them. That sounds like a place that'd be a really cool place to shoot a show.
It'd be great because, like I said, once you're there, you're there. There's none of this moving around, rigging, trying, and you can get out of the wind. There's different areas, so there's so much marsh. You can kind of find ways to deal with weather since you're going to bring that with you like you always do. And
right. Hey, we got a question from Scott Perry about where to find those crabs.
So right now, you can go to their website. It's Cranka Crabs. So it's Cranka, or you can just Google search it. There's other places you can buy them. I believe they're setting up a U.S. Online store, so it's a little easier for people in the U.S. But right now it is mostly coming out of Australia. But if you Google Cranka Crabs, you'll be able to find them. They also have a Facebook page. You can check them out on their Facebook page.
Yeah, somebody else commented I saw before it went by. Oh, here it is. That he thought, for some reason, the comments aren't working properly here, but he thinks it would be really good for the snapper in New Zealand, and I don't doubt it. They do a lot of soft baiting for the snapper over in New Zealand, and I'm sure it would be another. Oh, that was Brent. Hey, Brent, how are you, man? I fished with Brent when we went to New Zealand.
Nice.
So,
yeah, anything that eats crabs, these things look like crabs. So if they eat crabs, they're going to eat it. So I saw somebody post yesterday a snook, which I didn't even think about snook eating crab, but he caught a snook on it. And honestly, I'm going to throw it for smallmouth bass because if it resembles slightly a crayfish, they're going to smoke it too, just like anything else. So I have no doubt in my mind that a smallmouth will crush this thing.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. I'm gonna, like I said, we gotta talk to him before we go to Louisiana next time and see what we can do.
Well, the cool thing is if you're having trouble finding the reds, which I can get reds to eat a lot of stuff, and you see telling sheep's head, and these sheep's head are 4 and 5 pounders. I mean, they're good sized fish, and they fight. They're like a snapper. If you ever fought a snapper, you know how hard they fight. They're in the same species category or whatever as a red snapper, and they're telling. Their tails are out of the water, so it's the same kind of feeling as you get when you're trying to sight cast that red, and it just gives you some other, something else in your arsenal to be able to throw when they're being super picky, and you really got to dial it in. And they always eat crab, always. Right.
So that was, how do you spell that? It was
Cranka, Cranka.
Cranka crabs.
Yep, that's it. They got some other baits too, and I think they're going to be coming out with some cool stuff at ICAST this year. So I'm excited to check it out.
I can't thank you enough. Everybody give them a big thumbs up. I really appreciate you being on here. I'm looking forward to fishing with you again soon. I'm sure I'll be seeing. Well, I'm going to see you in Bahamas in not too long, right?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, the beginning of a month, a little over a month away. And then let's put together this Louisiana thing, and let's talk about your those crab lures and see what we can do with them. See if they can help us out with some stuff.
Because I imagine bonefish will eat them. So I'll try to get my hands on a few more for the Bahamas trip, because I think we are doing at least one inshore day or a couple of inshore days.
Yeah, we'll be doing a little bit of both. I'm going to bring a fly rod again just so I can frustrate myself and all that. But I really appreciate you being on here. It was a lot of fun. I know it was last minute, so
and sorry for all the jumbled up at the beginning.
That's not a problem, man. So I'm going to click you off, and I'm going to just go over a couple things with everybody else here. And again, thanks so much, brother.
Yeah, man. See you soon, bro.
Take care. So yeah, everybody, again, I just want to remind you all that, of course, brought to you by Ballast Point. Again, I really do appreciate you all being on here with me. Remember, if you're going on the water, always wear your PFD. Hold your paddle right side up. Cheers. Have a good day.